Hello again, this is TRJ Audio, the guy responsible for producing and mixing and mastering the soundtrack on Deep Rock Galactic, and also responsible for doing all the sound design in the game. That's all the weird sound effects that you find throughout the game. Alien screams and guns and explosions and whatever. Thanks for clicking the play button and for all the nice comments that I got from the earlier video. This is my second video about how I produced the soundtrack to Deep Rock Galactic. And today we'll be going through the track Hold My Beard, which was composed by Sophus Alf Agerbæk and then produced and mixed and mastered by me. I'm doing this completely solo, so to speak. It's not anything that Ghost Ship Games asked me to do. So if you feel like supporting me and if you want to watch more videos like this, then please like and subscribe. And if you're super awesome, then you'll even buy me a pizza via the link. And of course, if you also do your own games in Unreal Engine, then you can follow the link in the description to have a look at my sound packs that I have for sale on the Epic Store, and maybe even buy them if you feel like it. I received this track from the composer, which had different sounds on different tracks. And most of the time I would keep what the actual instruments are playing, but I would swap out the instrument sounds. So you might be able to recognize lots of the melodic patterns from the version that I received, but you'll definitely hear that almost all of the sounds have been switched out. So a track that might be playing a specific synthesizer sound would still play the same notes, but the synthesizer sound itself would be completely changed afterwards. This is something that went through on all the different songs that you can hear on the soundtrack. So first of all, I'll be walking through the original track that I received from the composer, Sophus, and I'll talk you through how I think it could be improved even more. And then I'll compare it to the version that I did, quickly listen through that, and then I'll go into the track more in depth and I'll show you everything instrument by instrument. It has a very eerie, long beginning. Slow build up, which isn't that great for a track where you want the action to kick in right away. So I remember Mikkel talked to me about that. He wanted the action to kick in right away, generally on these types of tracks. And here, the drums kick in. And you have some pretty harsh sounding, almost 8-bit sounding synth stuff going on, which can be hard for the ears to listen to for a long time. So I would mellow those out and also make the drums more punchy. I really like this section here, but it doesn't sound like it's like you're fighting for your life and shooting lots of aliens and stuff. It sounds a bit too mellow. Then we'll have a low drum section coming in. I would probably clean this section up a little bit. The low drums, they muddy up the whole track a little bit. Then we have a breakdown. Yeah, and the melodic pattern that you can hear here has been the same that's been going on all the time. We'll probably change that or filter it over time or somehow make it a little bit more interesting to listen to. And in this section of the track I would probably make it sound more connected to the earlier part of the track. Also add some melody lines or something, because it feels a little empty. And generally I would like to make the track feel a little more pumping or energetic, a little more, I don't know, dance-like, so to speak. And it could also need some change over time. It's just a bit too repetitive. And also take some of the harshness out of the bassy, leadish sound right there, because if you are fighting lots of aliens in the game and you have the sound effects going on, then I would probably leave some space for that. So that was the version that I received from the composer, and then let's go on and listen to the finished version. As you can hear, the track starts off more busy and a little bit more action-packed. It still has the same eerie sounds that the composer put in the beginning. I just added some drums and some other sounds, and it has a faster build-up. It doesn't stay in this mood too long. Then we have a riser right here that I added. It slowly builds up, and then a lovely 80s sounding string hit. And then I beefed up the drums if we compare them to the old ones. As you can really hear the drums. The harsh 8-bit sounding sound has been changed. And now another set of drums come in. But still the same elements that you heard in the original version. And some more drum layers, if we again compare it to the old version. This is definitely more cleaned up, more punchy and more defined, but still using Sophus elements. And then lovely 80s string hit again. And then I added a synthesizer that pitches down slowly. And a riser, and then the hit again. And then full stop for a second here. Right at this point in the track, I felt like you needed a completely different or a new section in the song to take you away from what had already been there and to keep it from being too repetitive. So I made this completely new section of the track and added a bass line, a lead sound as well, and then added Sophus' original drums on top of that. So let's listen to the new section that I inserted into this track. Here comes the epic lead line. That was it for the finished version, and then let's split that up and go through that version instrument by instrument. So let's start with the kick track. This is the drum machine that's making the drum sound, the kick sound. And then I'm filtering that. So I'm boosting some low end and some top end. This is one of the two pulsing sounds that create a busy feeling. They're panned in left and right side. And combined it sounds like this. Gives you a pretty edgy and stressful feeling. And here we have kind of a snarey sounding drum. With a bit of reverb on it and some EQ on it. And we have two of those, both with very 80s iconic sound on it. Some filtering on the left side. And then we have a beefy sounding main drum section. This is the instrument. And then I have some filtering on it. And let's hear it together with the other drums. There's a really nice drum skip that Sophus made that comes in right here. Cool stuff. And then back again to the more stressful section. And and then it's sending to a reverb plugin. More and more over time. Then we have a very straightforward kick sound as well. Let's combine the whole thing. And big credit to Sophus for making all these drum patterns. They sound really cool. Then I do some filtering, muffling, taking the high frequencies out. Because we're at a point in the track where we need some change in sound. Let's have a listen. Yeah, so I'm muffling the drums to create space for that lead sound. Let's go on to the next sound, which is, I think, pretty much as Sophus left it. It's just a weird intro sound. It sounds kind of cool. And then another eerie sound that I think is pretty much as Sophus left it as well. And then let's hear the build-up sound that I added. And then another intro sound, also left as Sophus did it from the beginning. And then on to the bass section, which has a Minimo Gimulation plugin on it. This is a section I added. Definitely gives you an old school vibe. And back to the intro sound, we can hear that I added some filtering to take off the high end to make it not sound as harsh. And then some 90s sounding pads that were pretty much left unchanged. Cut out some low and high frequencies, but they were pretty much as Sophus delivered them. And then another section that you don't really notice until you solo it. Also left pretty untouched. Did some filtering on it, but that's it. And then the horn section. And then a very disgusting / awesome sounding bass sound. That was also left pretty much as Sophus delivered it. Did some filtering again because I didn't want this bass to be the whole focus. So I had to make space for the other sounds by filtering out some top end. And also I put this Valhalla space modulator on it, which can take a centered sound and spread it out into the stereo field, so it can leave space for other sound in the center. And a cool and thin sounding drum again. Repetitive, but it does the trick. Did some filtering on it to make it more punchy, less harsh. And this one is the same pattern as the last track, but from a sequential circuits drum tracks machine, which is an old, well-known drum machine, as you can hear. Added some filtering. We have one of the very first wavetape synthesizers, the PPG 360, doing some bell sounds. Then with reverb on, sounds a bit more epic. And then we have horns. Very simple stuff, but very effective. And then a sound that I added to go from the more high-pitched section of the track into the more low-pitched section of the track. So it's basically just a synthesizer note pitching down over time. Very simple transition, but it works. And this is the section that I talked you through earlier, where I added a completely new section. This is the bass sound for that section of the track. And then I added a melody line on top, a very shaky sounding and old school sounding. I love how unstable it sounds. Sounds broken, but deliberately broken. And then some X-Files sounding strings that were pretty much left as Sophus made them. Just applying some EQ to take out the harsh sounding high frequencies, give more space for the rest of the stuff. Then another X-File-ish or 90s sounding pad, which also was left pretty much as Sophus handed it over to me. And then just a percussive element in the break. Gives it kind of a Middle Eastern feeling. Yeah, just subtly there in the background, kind of almost like a Chinese gong sound. And we have the different hits. This is actually the sound of the Fairlight Sampler that had an orchestra hit. And the Fairlight Sampler is one of the very first samplers ever made. And has a very 80s sounding hit to it. You might recognize that from other songs. Then combined with some whooshes to make it sound more deep. And the orchestra hit sound that you just heard was actually used in the James Bond movie A View to a Kill, and also on countless hip-hop records of that era. That really takes you back to 1985 or whatever. Combined with my whooshes. So you get an upscaled lo-fi sound, so to speak. And then another reverse stinger. Combined with the Fairlight Sampler sound. So that was it for Hold My Beard. And as I mentioned in the intro, if you feel like subscribing and liking, do that please. It'll only help me out because I'm doing all this in my spare time and on my own. And also if you want to support me even further and maybe even support yourself if you're doing computer games in the Unreal Engine, feel free to check out the links in the description and have a listen to the sound packs that I have for sale on the Epic Store. Have a great day and see you in the next video. Bye.